Okay, so today we are going to create our first Azure function and we will make it very simple. So, how we can create it? Let's start. I go here, search for function. It will go for the function app. You select the function app and it will ask you to create the function app. Once you create, I'm on the consumption plan. Select it. I'm using the same subscription which I was using for Logic app. I can use the same group because I'm doing the sample project in the same resources group. So it will help me to manage the billing and the resources. Function name I can give something like let's give something like a grouping because I'm creating a function which can group the output array later. Runtime stack, I'm going to use the JS. I know I should not use the Canada Central, but since it's a default, I'm selecting this one. Later we can change it. Create the function. Okay, deployment is in progress. Now you see, once I go in the home, I have a grouping function app. It's created. Now there are few ways it's given to create the function. Either I can directly create here or I can go via VS Code. So I will prefer the VS Code. So for that there is some guideline given if you want to go with the VS Code. I'm using the JS, but nothing much. Simply install the VS Code and then we will walk through together what we need to set up for creating the function at local and deploying to Azure portal. Okay, so I have downloaded the VS Code. Once you downloaded the VS Code, these are the extension you need to install. Azure account. Once you install the Azure account, you will see the A icon here. I was also thinking about the Logic app, but I haven't started still, so I installed the Logic app. But anyway, our main purpose here is the Azure function. Azure resources, I'm not sure how it's coming. Maybe it was have a dependency, so I installed that one. So these four you needed. After that, so extension is done. Now it will, once you click on the Azure, it will ask you to log in. So I logged in and then you can see my Azure subscription, whatever I have in the Azure portal, I can see here. But basically if I go in the resources, you will see here what I have in the portal is my Logic app, which I was working on the previous video, and function app, which I recently created. What was the name? Grouping. So by this way, we are connected from our local to Azure portal. Okay, for creating the new function in Azure, we have a required extensions. We are logged in the Azure portal and we need to make sure we have installed the npm also node module, and that node module version 16 I'm going to use here. So for that, let's go in the Azure section and there is a workspace, create the new function, and it's asking the directory which I'm choosing. Where is my node module? I'm going to use the JavaScript Azure function and it will be triggered by the HTTP trigger one. I'm using the basic name and let's create it. Get ignore, that's fine. Let's use the same one. Function ignore, let's use the same one. Okay, so it's created the new function here. Once you see here, your function is there, and it is a hello world, it coming by default. Now, before deploying to Azure portal, I want to test this one here. So for testing, I go in the run and debug mode here, and it's asking me to select the attach to node function. Let's run this one. So that's what I wanted to show you here. It's telling you need to install the Azure Function Core Tools. So it can be installed via brew command, and I will give in the description what brew command you can use to install this one. I already installed here. So you simply run it. So I simply run it. And when I run it, you can see here, and it's running the npm run start, and after that it's simply going in the function start. And so that's what I think we need, this Azure Function Core Tools, because it will help to run at the local end. Okay, we got the HTTP URL where we can test our request. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so when we hit this function, it's coming hello world as a response. If you see in the function, it is also written like this only. Since you did not pass the name, it's coming simply default name is hello world. Okay, all good. We ran this function, Azure function, at the local end. Now time to deploy on the portal. So here, if I refresh here, there is no function so far in the grouping function app. So I go in the VS code and go here in the function, and there is a icon to deploy to portal. So it's asking which function app you want to use, and we already have a grouping here. You see here grouping. So I simply use the grouping and it's deploying there. Are you sure? Yeah, I want to deploy, and then it start the deployment process. It's taking some time. Okay, I think it's done. Deployment will be reused and npm installed. Okay, let's see on the portal what is going on. So if I refresh this portal, it's getting refreshed. Okay, it means deployment is still going on. Okay, it's done now. Let's refresh again. Okay, now we can see this Azure function is deployed here. We can also test this one here. So there is a button to test it, and if I test it again, testing tool open here, which we can test via Postman or some other testing tool, but it's also supported by here. So I'm going to use the get method, and I'm not passing any name, so it will give me the hello world. But if I pass any name in the query parameter, so name equal to, okay, what is the query parameter? Name, and value equal to test. Run it. Hello test. This way we can develop at the local end and deploy to the Azure portal Azure function.